After the girl finished counting down, it suddenly started raining heavily outside. This surprised her female colleague, who was standing nearby, due to her foresight. The girl, named Ye-sul, possessed a miraculous ability. Simply by touching someone's lips, she could predict future events. When she was very young, a kiss on her father's hand would trigger a series of images, each predicting his death. She collapsed onto the floor, devastated. When Ye-sul grew up and kissed her boyfriend, she saw him with another woman. From that moment, she realized her ability was a curse. Therefore, she broke up with her boyfriend and decided to stop using her superpower. Later, when she had a new boyfriend, she would pretend to have a cold whenever he wanted to kiss her. This continued for 3 months, and her boyfriend couldn't take it anymore, so he suggested they break up. Since then, Ye-sul hasn't dated anymore. She's focused on her career, but she met a strict and demanding boss named Min-hoo. On her first day at work, she was scolded by him just for her clothes and makeup. But then he took her to the shopping mall and gave her a card to choose from. Every time she was scolded, she cried, and he comforted her in the same way. She learned to comfort her subordinates in the same way. Having worked under Min-hoo for 5 years, Ye-sul understood him completely. Just the sound of him putting his hand on her neck was enough to know she was about to be scolded. This time, because her proposal was rejected by a client, she was severely criticized. Because of this, she stayed up for several nights working and had to use energy drinks to continue. That day, when Ye-sul was reporting on her work, Min-hoo suddenly told her to go change her clothes. It was then that she realized her nose was bleeding. Therefore, she hurriedly ran to the restroom to freshen up. At this moment, Min-hoo noticed the soda she had drunk, so he understood what had happened and quickly took her to the hospital. He told her to get a general checkup. She didn't understand why he knew she frequently came here. That day, Ye-sul came to see the actress to confirm the advertising plan. The other party saw Ye-sul's lipstick color and liked it very much. When the other party's finger touched her lips, she saw a successful commercial shoot. So she happily went to choose that lipstick and prepared to give it to the other party as a gift. But when she returned, she saw Min-hoo and the actress being affectionate with each other. To diffuse the awkward atmosphere, she quickly said she came to give a gift. She panicked and tried to escape. Seeing this, Min-hoo chased after her and cornered her against the wall. He explained that the scene was just a misunderstanding. He only wanted to get the bottle of water. This left her feeling completely confused. The day before the commercial shoot, the creative director decided to schedule the filming early. Ye-sul wanted to refuse, but the director told her not to worry. That night, Ye-sul couldn't sleep. She had a feeling something bad was about to happen. Suddenly, Min-hoo called, and she saw it was raining outside. She hurriedly took a taxi to the set. He scolded her for bringing the props out early. Ye-sul felt helpless bearing this blame. She helped him clean up the props but accidentally tripped and fell into him. Their lips then touched. At that moment, she saw an unbelievable future. She and he were about to have a romantic relationship. Just as she was flustered and about to explain, he pushed her hand away and seemed to resist her. Luckily, colleagues came in at that moment, easing the awkward atmosphere. The next day, Ye-sul still couldn't accept this future. For the past 5 years, she had been criticized by him every day, either in the office or on the street. So Ye-sul went to Min-hoo to confirm, but he was changing clothes at the time. She intended to avoid him, but suddenly turned around to look. She was extremely suspicious when she discovered that there were no scars on his back. In the future, she had clearly seen and touched those scars. She wanted to get closer to examine them, but he thought she was crazy and chased her out. This was the first time she doubted her own abilities. When filming the commercial in the afternoon, the director was furious because of Ye-sul's mistake the night before. Due to the heavy rain, the props were all soaked, so they had to change to a different bed. Therefore, the director was extremely dissatisfied. Just when Ye-sul didn't know what to do, Min-hoo came to her rescue. He came up with a new solution: remove the bed to pique users' curiosity about the brand. Unexpectedly, the results were surprisingly good. The director didn't pursue the matter further and breathed a sigh of relief. But when Ye-sul saw Min-hoo and the model chatting intimately, she felt a little disappointed. That night, she told her friend about what had happened over the past 2 days. Her friend said that she had simply been having hallucinations because she hadn't been getting enough rest lately. Her friend also said that she and Min-hoo absolutely couldn't be in love. So Ye-sul didn't think much of it and dismissed it as just a hallucination. But what she didn't expect was that Min-hoo actually possessed a special ability like hers. The man had a miraculous ability. Even while wearing headphones at home, he could clearly hear the roar of motorcycles thousands of kilometers away. Even more miraculously, with just a glance, he could accurately identify the license plate number. But his abilities also have serious side effects. It turned out that whenever he had intimate contact with a woman, he would become weak-willed. However, he accidentally kissed Ye-sul. Ye-sul also possessed a special ability. She could foresee the future relationship between two people just through a kiss. The next morning, morning, Min-hoo was absent from the meeting because he wasn't feeling well. At this time, the director expressed his opinion about the commercial they had filmed. He argued that the advertisement for the bed lacked props. Although creative, it lacked sturdiness. Moreover, the rain had damaged the high-end bed, worth only 20 million won. At this point, the person in charge shifted all the blame onto Yesul. He even pretended to apologize to the director on her behalf. Seeing things taking a turn for the worse, Min-hoo immediately appeared. Through the advertising strategy and development plan he had stayed up all night researching, he successfully convinced the director. Therefore, the two sides officially agreed to cooperate. Yesul finally breathed a sigh of relief. After the meeting, she went to see the person in charge and confronted him. Unexpectedly, he used his power to let the matter pass. He completely ignored her and even loudly declared that he would do the same thing again if it happened again. At that moment, Min-hoo came out and gestured for Yesul to go ahead. The person in charge wanted to play the villain again. Unexpectedly, Min-hoo revealed what he had done. This time, it was because he insisted on filming the scene beforehand that he almost caused the company to lose money and have to pay compensation. Yet, he still wanted to feign ignorance. Then, Min-hoo continued to list his mistakes one by one, so he had no choice but to admit it. The company's leadership felt that Yesul was not capable enough to manage this matter, but Min-hoo still resolutely protected her. He said that he would support her throughout the process. Although he had secretly done many things, when Yesul reported on her work, he pretended to be a strict superior and unintentionally criticized her mistakes. Furthermore, after their kiss, Min-hoo deliberately avoided her at the company. This kind of relationship between them made Yesul even more certain that the future she envisioned was just an illusion. That day, the project Yesul was in charge of finally commenced and was a resounding success, sparking heated discussions online. At this point, Min-hoo suddenly approached her and said that the event venue smelled terrible, but Yesul couldn't smell anything. However, she could only obey the order to spray disinfectant everywhere. She complained to her colleagues that Min-hoo was targeting her. Unexpectedly, Ji-young, a fan of Min-hoo, overheard her. She was also a famous star. Luckily, the fans nearby spotted her and managed to help Yesul out of the predicament. But after the event ended, Ji-young sought out Yesul to demand justice on behalf of Min-hoo. She deliberately told Yesul to go buy coffee and then timed her. When Yesul finished buying it and came out, Ji-young pretended she had something else to do and hung up. Then she instructed the driver to drive slowly and walked past Yesul with a challenging look. When Yesul returned to the event, she discovered a homeless man causing trouble. Only then did she understand why Min-hoo had told her to spray disinfectant. She went up and tried to reason with him, but the man wouldn't leave. Moreover, he kept shaking the pole next to him. At that moment, Min-hoo appeared. Anticipating that the pole would break, Yesul rushed to his aid, but she discovered that he had been injured by the top of the pole. After arriving at the hospital and seeing the stitches on his back, she recalled the scene she had seen in the future. It turned out everything was predetermined. After taking him home, she looked around curiously. Suddenly, she saw a familiar scene. According to her prediction, their relationship had developed here. She followed her memories step by step. This was Min-hoo's room. Just as she was about to pick up her bag and leave, she suddenly stopped. She wanted to use this rare opportunity to confirm her prediction. Unexpectedly, Min-hoo woke up at that moment. Faced with such an embarrassing situation, Yesul quickly made an excuse to leave. The next day, the two of them ran into each other in the elevator. Thinking back on what happened the night before, Yesul felt awkward and didn't know how to explain. She quickly found a topic to start the conversation. She thanked him for saving her the previous day, but he didn't even look at her, directly talking about work without saying a word about what happened yesterday. So Yesul felt embarrassed and remained silent. After the meeting, Min-hoo called Yesul to accompany him to the event site. From the construction staff, she learned that to help her event proceed smoothly, Min-hoo had personally inspected the site before the photo shoot. As Yesul was carrying her things to leave, Min-hoo appeared and took the props from her hands. Then, without saying a word, he simply turned and left. She couldn't understand what he was thinking. After the event ended, Yesul took out her phone to take a selfie as a memento. Unexpectedly, Min-hoo coincidentally appeared in front of the camera, startling her and causing her to drop her phone. This was also the first photo they had taken together. He came to see her not to congratulate her, but to lecture her about her mistake, and she could only bow her head and listen. But she didn't know that he did it only so she could handle the next project better. This only reinforced her belief that the two of them could never be in love. On her way home, she suddenly froze at the screen. The image on it was of her ex-boyfriend. This brought back old memories, and her mood worsened. She then focused all her attention on work. Unexpectedly, the power suddenly went out at the company, and she hadn't brought her phone, so she had to grope her way home in the dark. At that moment, she accidentally encountered Min-hoo. Before she could even cry out, he silenced her. This activated her ability. In the future, she saw him holding holding a ring and proposing to her. This unexpected prediction left her stunned. He then pulled her away. But as they went downstairs, the power came back on, leaving both of them feeling a little disappointed. So they stayed at the company to work overtime. While Minhoo was thinking about work, Ye-sul was lost in her own thoughts. It was raining heavily outside. Minhoo suddenly brought up something from 2 years ago. Back then, Ye-sul had been expressing her feelings about the rain to him. She wondered how he remembered it so clearly. He said it was because she was forgetful. Then he left the umbrella behind and walked away. That day, the company was holding an anniversary celebration, so Ye-sul wore an outfit exactly like the one in the future. She wanted to bravely face the truth. When she saw Minhoo's short haircut, exactly like in that scene, she was filled with anticipation. But nothing happened until the celebration ended. This left her a little disappointed. Suddenly, someone called out to her. She thought Minhoo was about to confess his feelings to her. Unexpectedly, it was her ex-boyfriend. He wanted to rekindle their old relationship, but she didn't say a word and walked away. Initially, when they were dating, Ye-sul contacted him many times, but each time he would hang up, citing being busy. This led to a big argument and ultimately a breakup. However, the underlying reason was that Ye-sul couldn't see her in his future. Disappointed, she walked alone, oblivious to the cars on the road. Luckily, Minhoo appeared in time and embraced her. He also noticed her unusual behavior that day, so he took her to a roadside stall to eat something to cheer her up. She also took the opportunity to indulge in a few drinks. When they got into the car, she deliberately told him about her ability to see the future simply by kissing him. Furthermore, she had seen them having sex, so she wanted to confirm it again. The next morning, she woke up in a panic in the hotel. She saw Minhoo beside her. She then remembered the bizarre events of the previous day. She even used the alcohol as an excuse to kiss him. Embarrassed, she asked him if he remembered what happened yesterday. Since he hadn't drunk any, of course he remembered clearly. Moreover, from her, he even knew that they would have a relationship in the future, but he felt it was impossible because whenever he touched a woman, he would become weak and completely powerless. But he was extremely curious, so he went into the elevator again and asked her if she knew anything beforehand about yesterday. However, this time, she couldn't remember anything at all. He was also sure she was drunk and talking nonsense. At that moment, the elevator doors opened. Unexpectedly, it was Ye-sul's ex-boyfriend. He was there to talk to Minhoo about the advertisement. Ye-sul, sitting behind, felt incredibly bored. Luckily, the elevator opened very quickly. Thus, she escaped this hell. As she arrived at the door, she encountered another acquaintance. Seeing the two of them leaving the hotel, the other person was about to speak when Minhoo immediately signaled with his eyes. He understood and quickly made up an excuse for them to go out for work. To convince Minhoo of her abilities, Ye-sul arranged to meet him after work. It was then that he suddenly realized how uncomfortable he felt when touching women, but when he kissed Ye-sul, nothing happened. Moreover, the noisy voices in his ears completely disappeared when he was with her. So he called a doctor, but the doctor couldn't explain this phenomenon either. After work, the two met. Ye-sul took Minhoo's hand and kissed it. Then she told him that 3 things would happen to him in the future: a doctor bleeding at his house, a car crashing around them, and his phone screen shattering. But he still couldn't quite believe it. However, the only thing that was certain was that he wouldn't feel uncomfortable when interacting with her. That night, the doctor came to his house and noisily demanded to sleep in his room, so he kicked the doctor. When the doctor turned around, he had a nosebleed. Minhoo remembered Ye-sul's prophecy. Then, the two of them went outside. Ji-young discovered lipstick under the bed. Moreover, the color number on it felt very familiar to her. Then she remembered it was the same shade Ye-sul had used. She went to Minhoo and asked him about it, but he said nothing. This made her feel strange. To find better advertising inspiration, the 3 of them went out together. They went to a place covered in golden sand. Pil-yo told the 2 of them to get out of the car while he drove around them to show off his driving skills. This scene once again confirmed Ye-sul's prophecy. At that moment, Minhoo received a phone call and left. Pil-yo, meanwhile, seized the opportunity to express his feelings for Ye-sul. This time, he returned not just to date her, but to marry her. He even asked her to agree to 3 more dates. She muttered a curse under her breath, calling him crazy, and turned to leave. However, she tripped over a rock and nearly fell. Luckily, Minhoo caught her in time. His phone screen shattered as a result. All 3 of Ye-sul's prophecies were completely true. Finally, Minhoo believed her, but Ye-sul didn't want to let feelings delay their work. Unexpectedly, Minhoo told them to go ahead. He could sense that the future she predicted would definitely come true. But he had conditions. Before he could even open his mouth, Ji-young interrupted him, so he had no choice but to take her away first. Ji-young asked if he was going to date Ye-sul. He didn't want to answer, but Ji-young suddenly asked if Ye-sul knew his secret. If she knew his secret, would she still want to date him? Minhoo had been racking his brain over this question for a long time. Therefore, when Ye-sul asked about Minhoo's conditions, he chose to evade the question. It turned out that due to an accident when he was young, young, his 5 senses had become unusually sensitive. Therefore, since then, he has always relied on new technology to live like a normal person. In everyone's eyes, that superpower is a good thing, but it has become a mental illness for him, and mental illnesses always need to be cured by oneself. Therefore, he sought out Yisul again and brought up the topic they hadn't finished discussing yesterday. Yisul frankly said that it was because she could see the future that she felt shy every time she met him. Moreover, he was her colleague, so she couldn't avoid him. Therefore, she wanted to fulfill the future she envisioned. He asked if she would feel comfortable if she slept with him. Did she really feel that way? She said yes. He told her to come to his house tonight. Thinking about what she was about to face tonight, she felt both anticipation and fear. She could only tell herself to calm down, but then she suddenly remembered that she wasn't wearing nice underwear today. At that moment, she recalled her future. It seemed she was wearing a black belt, but it wasn't the same as now. That night, the two of them simulated what would happen in the future. Just as they were about to reach the crucial point, he stopped and asked what he would do next. She said they were undressing, but he was suspicious and said that was impossible. Just when they were about to get to the climax, he ruined it, so they had to stop. To figure out how he felt that day, he asked her to recount everything. She said they seemed to have been drunk. Even when they broke a vase in the living room, they didn't pay attention and rushed into the bedroom. When he heard that his most cherished vase had broken, he immediately told her to move it, but he carelessly broke another one. Moreover, it was a one-of-a-kind limited edition in the world. At this point, neither of them was in the mood to continue. To avoid ruining their future, she took out a confidentiality agreement and gave it to him. But he didn't think a one-night stand would happen after drinking. Therefore, he stated his condition. If he slept with her in the future, then he would definitely be dating her, because he wouldn't sleep with a woman he didn't like. So, if she wanted to sleep with him, then she should date him. At first, she only wanted to resolve a knot in her heart, but now it had escalated into a date. So she was so distressed, she couldn't sleep. The next day, when she met him, she directly refused his condition. He was different from others. Hearing her say she couldn't date him, his overconfidence suddenly flared up. He retorted that they were both single, so why couldn't they date? Why was he so sure she was single? Who else would have a boyfriend and still work overtime all night like her? And then there was the one-night stand with him. At this moment, Pilyo called her. It was supposed to be just a normal work handover, but she suddenly agreed to his date proposal. She even gave Minhoo a challenging glance. Pilyo was so overjoyed, he was speechless. He quickly dropped everything. The next day, he arrived at Yesul's house early to wait for her. Later, the two went camping and hiking together, but she regretted her impulsiveness a little, so she treated this date as just a business trip. Pilyo still remembered her previous eating habits, so he told her to eat first before talking. These details made Yesul feel confused. They went out from day until night. Finally, Pilyo managed to ask the question that had been bothering him for a long time. Why did they break up? Yesul couldn't explain it to him clearly, because she had witnessed him living happily with someone else many times in the future. Therefore, she made up an excuse about the cold weather to ask him to take her home. When she got home, she found that the lights wouldn't turn on. The house was also in complete disarray. At that moment, a strange man emerged from behind the curtains. Yesul, terrified, covered her head and collapsed to the ground. Luckily, Minhoo appeared in time to chase the man away. After reporting the situation to the police, Yesul began to suspect why Minhoo was there so coincidentally. It turned out that during the day, Minhoo discovered she had taken leave to go on a date with her ex-boyfriend. So that night, he waited near her house to confirm if she had returned home. But when he explained to her, he said he wanted to confirm something related to work. She felt a little suspicious because there were no more calls on her phone. She wanted to take out her phone to check, but he immediately avoided the topic and changed the subject. Because the house was incredibly messy, he took her to the company's duty room to stay for the night. But on the way, they encountered a driver who deliberately cut them off. This reminded Yesul of the scene she had seen in the future when she kissed Minhoo. At that time, they looked sweet like a couple in love. She also revealed a happy smile. This was also the first time she had seen herself happy in a vision. Therefore, when she arrived at the company, she was still in a dazed state. Minhoo even thought there was something wrong with her head, so he tried to check it with his hand. Coincidentally, they were caught by a colleague on duty. That night, she lay in bed but couldn't sleep. She recalled that when she was with her ex-boyfriend, it was all helplessness and sadness. But when she was with the future Minhoo, it was incredibly sweet. It seemed her heart had made its choice. The next day, Yesul arrived home and saw a group of people doing repairs. Minhoo was standing nearby, supervising every corner and telling the repairman to make careful adjustments. This reminded her of how Minhoo was always there for her whenever she was in danger. This feeling of security was rarer than any promise of eternal love. She stared at him blankly and asked if he liked her. After he answered, he left. Only then did Yesul react. She hurriedly chased after him and asked laughed when he started liking her. She asked why he liked her but was always angry with her at the company. Was there something wrong with his mental state? Minhoo replied that he had gradually started liking her since Ye-sul started working there. Moreover, his strict demands on her were only because he hoped the person he liked would be as outstanding as himself. He asked if she had any more questions. When was she going to answer him? He didn't like waiting. At this moment, Pilyo suddenly appeared to show off in front of the woman he liked. The two men started arguing. Ye-sul could only helplessly shake her head. Pilyo wanted to drink with Minhoo, but Ye-sul stopped him. She said that Minhoo couldn't drink, so he immediately seized the opportunity to mock Minhoo. When Pilyo wanted to pour him a drink, Ye-sul stopped him. Minhoo immediately retaliated, and the two argued again. Just as Ye-sul was at a loss, Pilyo's colleague appeared and took him away. So Ye-sul had no choice but to take Minhoo home. Minhoo was drunk, and she didn't know the door code, so she could only carry him to her house. At this point, she poked him with her shoe and asked if he really liked her, but she didn't get an answer. Therefore, she started talking to her future self. Would they really date? Would she be as happy as in that scene? Just as she turned to leave, he sobered up and asked her if they would really be happy. Ye-sul didn't know if it was true or if she was drunk and had misremembered. He told her she just needed to confirm it again. Seeing her silence, he asked if she was afraid of him in the future. This time, he was the one to ask first. Indeed, the future was filled with warmth, but she didn't tell him anything. The next day, they met at the company. He still wanted to ask her about the results of the previous day, but she turned and left. At that moment, he couldn't understand what she was thinking anymore. That evening, she arrived at the advertising shoot location and found everything was over. When she turned around, she saw Minhoo. She wanted to find a reason to leave, but he called her back and asked about the results of the previous day. Finally, she confronted her heart and made a decision. She accepted this relationship. Finally, they decided to start dating. The next day, Ye-sul went to the company with a feeling of unease, but she found that Minhoo treated her no differently than before. After a day of work, she hadn't received a single text message or call from him. This made her wonder if they were really dating. Then, Ye-sul even asked a colleague if Minhoo had been out all day. The colleague glanced around and told her that he had been in the office the whole time. Ye-sul was furious. Just as she was about to confront him, he called. He then took her to a hotel. He produced a confidentiality agreement. It not only stipulated that they must keep their relationship a secret, but also clearly stated that they couldn't kiss each other. Because Ye-sul could see the future through kisses, she didn't want this to affect her. Minhoo, after seeing the condition, felt that fulfilling it would likely end their relationship. He immediately said he couldn't accept it. He said that even after I slept with her, I would still date her if she wanted to continue dating me. Even now, she still wants them to break up immediately after sleeping with me. Hearing these words, Ye-sul's heart pounded uncontrollably. She immediately ran to the restroom to calm down. But when she returned, NH asked her when she would come to his house to fulfill the prediction. Just as she was wondering how to answer, Ji-young appeared. Ye-sul hastily made an excuse to cover up their date, but Ji-young exposed the truth. Therefore, Minhoo said they were dating. After the date ended, Ji-young chased after Minhoo and asked if she would still date him if Ye-sul knew his secret. This time, it was Minhoo's turn to be speechless. Luckily, a guy arrived in time to pull Ji-young away. Then, Minhoo took Ye-sul home. Ye-sul finally couldn't hold back and asked him what his relationship with Ji-young was and what the secret she didn't know was. But the contract they had just signed mentioned something confidential that could be kept secret. So Ye-sul had no choice but to comply with that clause. However, Minhoo still told Ye-sul that Ji-young was just a younger sister he had known since childhood. He showed her a photo as proof. The next day, Pilyo came to bother Ye-sul again. He even asked her when their second date would begin. She could only say that she was already dating Minhoo, but this made him laugh. Because when they were together before, Ye-sul had mocked Minhoo, so he thought their relationship was impossible. He asked her to tell him how they started. She stammered, not knowing what to say. Besides, he was still upset about their breakup, but this time, she still didn't tell him the answer. Ye-sul returned to the company feeling sad about her relationship. Seeing this, Minhoo pulled her aside and wanted to add a new clause to the contract. He had just discovered that he hated it when the person he liked was alone with someone of the opposite sex. Before Ye-sul could say anything, Minhoo suddenly heard footsteps outside. He pulled her into the small room. She was extremely curious about how he knew someone was there. Minhoo didn't explain. Ye-sul was curious about something else. He had liked her all this time, so why hadn't he asked her out? It turned out that 5 years ago, when Minhoo learned that Ye-sul was about to become his subordinate, he exclaimed that his last chance had finally arrived. But when he was about to express his feelings, he saw a photo of Ye-sul with her boyfriend. 4 years ago, he even saw her mocking him to her boyfriend. And more importantly, 2 years ago, when he visited Ye-sul in the hospital, he overheard a colleague trying to set them up. But Ye-sul said that if she and Minhoo were to date, she would keep an iron in her hand. Hearing this, Yi-sul became extremely curious. She had clearly confirmed that no one was around. So how did Min-hoo hear it? As she got closer, he became more and more nervous. He kept swallowing. Before leaving, he added another clause. If she wanted to kiss him, he would initiate. Yi-sul froze. She still couldn't believe she was moved by these words. The next day, Pilyo arranged to meet Yi-sul for a photo shoot. On the way, he accidentally bumped into a stack of files. He inadvertently saw Yi-sul and Min-hoo's dating contract inside. Therefore, he went to Yi-sul to ask for clarification, but she said it was just a secret code during a date. However, Pilyo already knew everything. It turns out he had known about her ability to foresee the future all along. After they broke up, he overheard a conversation between Yi-sul and her younger sister. At first, he was suspicious, but later he completely believed it. He waited for her to reveal the reason, but she avoided him for 3 years. Now that she started a new relationship, he chose to expose the truth. However, the other woman already has a family and a child. This made Yi-sul begin to doubt her prediction. What shocked Yi-sul even more was that the woman said she had once liked Pilyo and had even kissed him while drunk. This was exactly the scene Yi-sul had seen in her future vision. Then she took Yi-sul to meet her baby. The scene of Pilyo playing with the child also perfectly matched her prediction. Only then did Yi-sul realize that everything had been a misunderstanding. But there are many things that, once wrong, are simply wrong. A cracked mirror, no matter how hard you try to mend it, will never be the same. Love is the same. Pilyo tried his best to win Yi-sul back. He didn't know what she had seen, nor did he know what kind of person he was in that picture. But whether in the past or present, his feelings for her remained unchanged. At this moment, Yi-sul's mind was in utter turmoil. She once again chose to avoid him. That night, she went to a bar alone. Seeing a missed call on her phone, she called Min-hoo back. The person who answered was Ji-young. She even deliberately said she was having dinner with Min-hoo. Moreover, she had heard from him about Yi-sul's special abilities. Before Yi-sul could say anything, she quickly hung up. The next day, Min-hoo saw a video of Yi-sul and Pilyo online. Therefore, he immediately called her to his office to show her the files and criticized her for meeting with her ex-boyfriend privately. Even the most basic rituals between lovers were not observed. At this point, Yi-sul questioned him about why he revealed her secret to Ji-young. He claimed he only dated her because of her special abilities. Min-hoo immediately denied it. However, faced with Yi-sul's persistent questioning, he couldn't reveal the reason. He couldn't guarantee whether they would still be able to date after Yi-sul learned about his special abilities. Ultimately, he chose to evade the question. Yi-sul, in turn, deliberately ignored his calls to provoke him. Min-hoo blamed Ji-young for everything and warned her not to spread rumors again. He threatened that if this happened again, they wouldn't need to see each other anymore. But Ji-young argued that he was with Yi-sul because his body wasn't bothering him. Therefore, to prove herself capable, she forcibly kissed Min-hoo. Yi-sul happened to pass by and witnessed it. Heartbroken, Yi-sul quickly ran away. Min-hoo, seeing this, wanted to chase after her to explain. At this point, the after effects kicked in, and when Min-hoo tried to explain everything, Yi-sul refused to listen. She became even more convinced of what she had witnessed. Min-hoo blamed everything on her ex-boyfriend, believing that his appearance had caused her to waver. This only made her more heartbroken. She angrily said, "Yes, I've wavered, so let's end it here." After saying this, she resolutely left. Min-hoo wanted to chase after her, but his body, struggling to hold on, had reached its limit. He struggled back to his room. He put on his headphones and glasses, took some painkillers, and then collapsed to the ground. But then he overheard his colleagues in the next room talking about how Yi-sul hadn't returned to her room yet. Worried she might do something foolish, he began searching for her. Enduring the pain, he removed his gun's protective gear and prepared to use his superpowers. At that moment, Yi-sul was walking alone on a small road, unaware of the imminent danger. Min-hoo heard her footsteps and the sound of wheels turning. Just then, a car approached, forcing the assailant to swerve onto the side road, giving Min-hoo time to reach her. The perpetrator, wearing gloves soaked in anesthetic and a handkerchief, got out of the car to prepare for the attack. Min-hoo heard the car door close and rushed over. His timely arrival frightened the assailant, causing them to flee. He also pulled Yi-sul away, but collapsed in pain midway. Yi-sul then took him back to the hotel. Finally, he revealed his secret. He would faint whenever he kissed someone. At this moment, Yi-sul remembered their first kiss. His expression was incredibly strange. He also told her that Ji-young was the daughter of the doctor treating him. But when he and Yi-sul were together, all the pain would disappear. Only then did she understand why Ji-young always targeted her. She wanted to ask him why he hadn't told her sooner, but at that moment he leaned on her shoulder and fell asleep. So the two of them held hands all night. The next day, Yi-sul also took the initiative to reconcile with Min-hoo. At the filming location that afternoon, a man wearing a mask snapped his fingers, attracting Min-hoo's attention. At this time, Ji-young accidentally sprained her ankle, so she couldn't continue filming. While everyone was feeling frustrated and didn't know what to do, the director suddenly picked up the costume and looked towards Yesul, so she changed into the wedding dress and acted as a stand-in, performing flawlessly, which captivated both Minho and Pilyo, who watched intently. This was the scene they both dreamed of. After filming ended, Minho found Yesul and told her to change quickly. At that moment, Minho heard some commotion and hurried away. Yesul wondered why he was always like this. She remembered that every time something unexpected happened, he always appeared by her side at just the right moment. So, when she left, she didn't go with him, but sent him a message saying she would wait for him. But he still found her easily. This time, he didn't hide it anymore, and said that, except for the discomfort of kissing, his 5 senses were different from ordinary people. Yesul was curious to know how far he could hear, so he told her that when she proposed to him, he had heard her heartbeat. She asked if he had anything else to hide from her, but he didn't answer the question. He used the excuse of taking her for a walk and took the opportunity to express his feelings there. He told them to go on a real, passionate date. Eventually, they decided to officially start dating, but it was completely different from their predicted future. It turned out that night, Yesul went to see the movie Pilyo had filmed for her. She also recalled her past self in the movie. When faced with the future, she always chose to run away. After the movie ended, Pilyo came to her side. She asked him whether the future she saw was inevitable or something she created herself. But now she wasn't confused about this anymore. She wouldn't choose to run away. She would face it. After leaving the movie theater, she called Minho. She really wanted to see him. Minho wanted to pick Yesul up, but she proactively said she wanted to go to his house. After hanging up, she ran towards the bustling crowd. The futures that had once bound her had become lighter with each step she took. When she arrived at Minho's house, she tore up the contract she had signed. She would do everything she wanted with him. No matter what the future held, she still wanted to sleep with him. Even if they eventually broke up, they would still date. She would sleep here tonight. The next day, she woke up to find herself sleeping in Minho's bed and remembered what had happened the night before. Her face was filled with happiness and shyness. Minho, a man who had never cooked before, was very thoughtful, preparing breakfast. But when she saw the dishes on the table, which looked a little unappetizing, she pretended that it tasted delicious. But her trembling hands said it all. Afterwards, they ordered pizza. After eating, they went to the changing room. Yesul saw Minho's protective gear and was extremely curious, trying each item on. But she discovered that she couldn't hear or see. Therefore, she wanted to test his abilities. Cha Minho is an idiot. Cha Minho is a scoundrel. While putting things back in their place, she saw the suit in the wardrobe. She told him that this was the suit he would wear when they slept together in the future. He also asked her what dress she would wear that day. She shyly said she would wear a lace dress. He immediately told her to wear that dress to work tomorrow. Then he smiled meaningfully and moved closer to her. At this moment, she suddenly said she had an urgent matter and needed to go home. It was indeed a very urgent matter. While Yesul was sorting clothes, she accidentally saw the dress. She began to wonder what Minho would say to her in the future that would surprise her so much. At this moment, Minho came to her and asked her why she didn't wear that dress. She told him that she had to take things one step at a time, but she herself had plunged headlong into a sea of love. First, she went to Ji-young to declare her claim. When she returned to the company, she was secretly delighted. Now Cha Minho was hers. While reporting on her work, she looked at his hand and involuntarily felt a tremor. He heard it too and asked why her heart was beating so fast. She thought she couldn't be so depraved anymore, so she started working through the night. The next day, she gave Minho a 5-sensory dating plan as the ace of the first planning team. She had planned an office date for them. This plan fully utilized his abilities, hence it was called the 5-sensory dating plan. Because kissing would be risky, she stipulated that only kissing on the cheek was allowed. Furthermore, only her lips could be used in the company. Since using apps or notes would leave traces, she would try to use his superpowers. They set the perfect time and place for their kisses. The first tactic was silent reading, the emergency stairwell at 7 p.m. If he kissed her first, it would be awkward, so she kissed him first. The second was telepathic communication. Knocking on a door meant the document room. Wait a minute, if she saw a bad future, then he would. The third was scent. Just her applying grapefruit-scented hand cream meant they were going to the self-service counter. They used work hours for their dates, making other employees incredibly envious. When alone in the elevator, they would kiss each other's hands. When the elevator doors opened, they would immediately let go and pretend to be serious. Blending in with the other people in the elevator, they would talk on the phone that evening. She wondered why he still hadn't said those 3 words to her. Meanwhile, he gazed at the potted plants and paintings in his house, lost in his memories. They had been childhood sweethearts. Minho showed Yesul the photo, but she couldn't remember anything. He remembered what his professor had told him. Try to face it, only then can you move forward. The next day, they went to Yesul's mother's art exhibition. When Yesul's mother saw Minho, she was extremely surprised. It turned out that fate really did exist in this world. Yesul's mother asked Minhu if he would still pretend not to know Yesul. Minhu said that he was also very conflicted. He was afraid that if he told her, she would recall unpleasant memories. Yesul's mother then said that he should enjoy life with the person he loved first. Minhu smiled happily. That evening, while strolling, he suddenly told Yesul to close her eyes and gave her a beautiful necklace. Finally, she voiced her doubts. Why hadn't he said those 3 words yet? Minhu asked her in return. Why didn't she say anything? Because even though she liked him, it wasn't enough to say those 3 words. Before leaving, Yesul specifically told Minhu a few details about the future, specifically that she would be wearing lingerie that day. Her purpose was to get revenge for him not saying those 3 words. After saying it, she immediately ran home. Minhu kept thinking about her words. He really couldn't hold back anymore. He called Yesul and asked her if the flower pot in the future would break. Would the leaves still be green then? After receiving a definite answer, he deliberately said that the flowers had already started to wilt. So tomorrow, the 2 of them would make their future a reality. The next day, before going to work, they both meticulously prepared themselves. When it was time to leave, a colleague informed them that there was a problem with the promotional video, so they had to postpone it until later. But in the following days, various reasons emerged that caused them to drag it out for a whole week. Her colleagues also noticed something unusual. Why was Yesul wearing the same outfit all week? So on the day the final commercial shoot was completed, the 2 of them could finally start a relationship. But her colleagues dragged them to a gathering. Moreover, they played a game of truth or dare. The bottle pointed to Yesul. The director asked, "What was your most unforgettable love?" Unexpectedly, the bottle pointed to her again. "What was your most unforgettable kiss?" Yesul had to drink to get through it. After that, the director always arranged for the bottle to point to Minhu. Finally, her colleagues seized the opportunity to torment their superior. Every question about Minhu was related to his first love. He also had to keep drinking. Someone who couldn't drink alcohol like him immediately texted Yesul, saying he was going out and she should come out too. As a result, everyone's phones rang simultaneously. Yesul immediately signaled to him with her eyes. Only then did he react. Luckily, his colleagues didn't pay attention. After the gathering ended, Yesul asked Minhu if his first love was really that important. He'd rather be teased by his colleagues and drink alcohol than say it out loud. Minhu didn't answer her, instead choosing to silence her with a kiss. Then they hurried back home to begin their passionate lovemaking. When the flower pot broke, the 2 finally realized that tonight was the predicted future. So Minhu pulled Yesul into the bedroom, and what happened next is probably obvious to everyone. It was just a simple kiss between lovers, but Yesul sat up in bed in fear. Then she rushed out of the room. It turned out that Yesul had just seen an unfortunate future. A man stabbed Minhu with a knife, and he lay on the bed, his life hanging in the balance. She couldn't believe he would be in danger because of her. He then asked her what she had seen. Before she could answer, she received a call from her younger sister. Her mother's new boyfriend had been hospitalized after a car accident. Fortunately, he received timely treatment and was out of danger. Just as Yesul was about to leave the hospital, a man called her back. It turned out to be the owner of the bar she frequented. They exchanged a few simple words before leaving, but as Yesul left, he gave her a meaningful look. At that moment, Yesul's mother also received a phone call. The familiar voice made her immediately recognize the man as the murderer of her husband years ago. He had been missing for 12 years. She asked if he was responsible for the car accident. He answered yes, and said he absolutely would not allow any other man to be by her side. So, could she take the initiative to be with him? She told him to stop talking nonsense and leave. Has he still not recovered from this terrible disease? She said she'd already called the police. This time he won't get away. She said she'd called the police, but the man didn't seem to care, saying he was about to meet her and Yesul. This man was the owner of the bar. Yesul overheard her mother's conversation and understood the reason. Her mother was worried about her safety, so she sent her luggage to Minhu's house and told her to stay there for a few days. But Yesul was afraid this would affect Minhu, so she decided to leave secretly. But Minhu saw her. He told her to tell him about the future. That way, if danger truly arose, they could avoid it better. Yesul also said she saw a reservoir. There was a strange red moon and a blue light in the sky. Next to it was a banner that read, "One Christmas Girl Orphanage." Minhu took out his phone and asked her to confirm if this was the right place. After Yesul saw that Minhu knew the location, she became even more certain that it would definitely happen in the future. She was worried and wanted to leave him, but he comforted her and said he would find a way to resolve it. But that night, Yesul suddenly dreamed that she was drowning in a reservoir. Although Minhu said it was just a dream, the growing unease made Yesul decide to secretly leave. When she left, she only left Minhu a note telling him that she was going to a beautiful country. They would be separated for a while. Perhaps the future wouldn't happen. Minhu was uneasy about leaving her alone, so he drove to her her house, but he found she had already left. He also discovered a surveillance camera system in the kitchen cabinet. It was clear someone had been plotting this for a long time, secretly observing Yi-Sul's every move. At that moment, Yi-Sul also felt someone was following her, so she rushed into her usual bar. When she woke up from her coma, she found herself in a strange place. The wall next to her was covered with photos of her as a child. She was wondering where she was when the bar owner appeared beside her. Only then did she remember what had happened. It turned out that she had realized someone was following her that night, so in her desperation, she had taken refuge in her usual bar. But she found it closed. The owner also appeared from behind her. When she saw that it was someone she knew, she felt relieved and sat down to talk to him about her upcoming trip to a beautiful country. He asked if it was related to her mother's boyfriend's car accident. She answered yes, but she wondered how he knew about it. Before she could fully understand the situation, she fainted on the table. When she woke up, it was now. She asked the pub owner why he was there. He told her to call her father. He had originally wanted to invite her mother to eat with them, but her mother never listened to him. However, her mother would come immediately. He knew exactly how to get her mother to listen. This made Yi-Sul even more confused. The owner began to explain that when he was young, he fell in love with Yi-Sul's mother at first sight. But the appearance of another man ruined everything. But these were just his severe delusions. He still believed he was the rightful owner of the house. He secretly wandered around Yi-Sul's house, but happened to run into her father. The two had a fierce argument. He took a knife and killed Yi-Sul's father. Although Yi-Sul was shocked by this sudden news, to escape, she had no choice but to pretend and accept the truth. She said that she had childhood amnesia and wanted to go to the second floor to see her former room. Then she jumped out of the cracked window. She started running away, despite her sprained ankle. In her panic, she ran to the reservoir. At that moment, the ice beneath her feet suddenly cracked. Clearly, this was the place she had predicted in the future. Minhu also arrived and saw Yi-Sul in danger. Ignoring the assailant beside him, he tried to reach the ice. Then he jumped into the icy water and rescued Yi-Sul. When he saw her unconscious, he tried to perform CPR on her. As the blood moon and blue light appeared in the sky, time seemed to rewind 20 years. He had done the same thing to save her then. Finally, Yi-Sul regained consciousness. But after Minhu kissed her, his illness started to flare up again. At this point, the tavern owner began to go berserk. He believed that Yi-Sul was in danger because of Minhu's appearance. Therefore, he stabbed Minhu with a knife. Yi-Sul could only watch as everything unfolded. As she gradually regained consciousness, she mustered her last ounce of strength to crawl to Minhu's side. The bar owner, seeing the situation was dire, tried to escape, but the police arrived just in time and arrested him. Minhu was rushed to the hospital. Yi-Sul also asked her mother about her suspicions. Had she and Minhu known each other since childhood? Finally, Yi-Sul remembered her childhood. She and Minhu had met on a rainy day. It was when she had just moved to a nearby neighborhood. She carelessly got lost. In her most helpless moment, Minhu appeared and took her to her new home. Since then, Yi-Sul had always thought of him. She wanted to become part of his family. Her mother asked her if she liked that boy so much. When she saw him being bullied, she would clench her fists and rush to protect him. Although they both ended up getting beaten, this only strengthened their bond. Minhu was also adopted by Yi-Sul's family. One rainy evening, as they returned home, Minho discovered his father's body. He noticed the killer hiding behind a curtain, so he pulled Yi-Sul away. They hid in the bushes and escaped the killer. However, Yi-Sul accidentally fell into a lake. Minhu managed to rescue her and performed CPR. On a night of blood moon and blue light, they both gained superpowers. But Yi-Sul lost her memory. Her mother wanted to leave this place of sorrow, so they were separated for 12 years. Now she remembers everything, but Minhu's situation remains unclear. Months have passed in the blink of an eye. That day, Yi-Sul received a call from the doctor saying that Minhu had regained consciousness. She rushed to him and excitedly hugged him tightly, but he pushed her away and asked who she was. As they left the hospital, she recounted their past experiences, mentioning that they both possessed superpowers. He didn't believe her until she mentioned that he followed her every day. Finally, he couldn't pretend anymore and hugged her tightly, giving her a kiss. She was surprised. He even thought she had seen a bad omen again, but she felt strange because she hadn't seen anything. When she confirmed it with him again, she discovered that both their superpowers had disappeared. That evening, she was still curious to experiment, but he felt that these things no longer mattered because as long as they were together and smiling happily, that was the life he had always dreamed of. The film ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos.